I'd like to get at least a couple of you guys actually responding here, because the only way to really see how other people do this is to see how other people do this. And that's why I do these live sessions as small group, because I think it's absolutely amazing to hear other people's perspectives, their responses, their cadences, their tonality, see their eye contact, that kind of stuff. Because otherwise you're just going off of your N=1 experience and you're like, well, shoot, am I doing this right? And I think that that's really helpful. So does anybody want to go first? And don't be shy. This is totally non-judgmental area, and I'm going to give you feedback. 99% of the time, I'm going to give you feedback that says you need to fix this. So don't feel bad. It's just how it is. You want to go first? All right. So we're going to start off with the same exact question every single interview is going to start off with. It's, tell me about yourself.
Hi, I'm Yulia. I'm 33 years old. I'm recently graduated from SGU Medical School. I'm originally Ukrainian, and I immigrated to the States about 13 years ago. And my biggest hobby is boxing.
Awesome. I think that you did a few things really solid here. And I'm going to tell you that one of the things that most people do wrong, you actually did perfectly. Okay. And so you kept it concise. And a lot of people will go into this question and they will talk for like 3 minutes straight. You do not want to do this. So, and remember, every one of these interviews is a conversation. All right. And so if you go online and you look at like residency interview tips or something like that, it'll tell you like, oh, like have a 2-minute prepared response. Make sure that you can speak about your journey, your passions, your aspirations in that specialty, your hobbies, your upbringing. It has like a list of 10 different things. And it's very common because I have students that come to me every year and they're like, I looked online for a residency prep tip and this is what they told me. And I'm like, dude, you're talking to a normal human being. I don't want to hear a 3-minute description of every aspect of your life, right? Like you responded a perfect amount in a perfect length. So has to be less than 45 to 60 seconds. Any longer than that, and your interviewer's already thinking about what they're getting for lunch. So that was perfect. And I'm glad you did 2 things here. So I generally recommend to avoid saying your age. So I would say avoid saying your age in interviews, especially if non-traditional path or large number of gap years. Okay. And there's really only one reason why I say that. And so some program directors have this kind of preconceived notion that I think is ridiculous, but they're like, if you're older, then maybe you're going to be harder to train because you've already established, like maybe you have a family, maybe you've had prior careers, maybe you have your own way of doing things. And I say this from the bottom of my heart that I would avoid saying it because I've heard it many, many times on these interview committee discussions where the program directors will be like, yeah, well, I mean, she's a little bit older or he's a little bit older. And what they literally mean is they think it's just going to be harder for you to be an intern. Okay. And obviously that's not the case. But what that means is as an intern, you're going to have to be taking orders from somebody that might be younger than you. They might be like 30 or 28. And it's kind of odd, like just from their perspective, like let's say you're 45 and you're taking instructions and orders from somebody that's 28. That's going to be tough for a lot of people, you know, like you're used to like, I'm not saying you, but like if let's say you're 45, you might have like a 10-year-old kid and you're used to bossing them around. And then all of a sudden now you're getting bossed around. It's a dynamic to be cautious of. And so I'm just telling you, that's where a lot of program directors, I've heard them say this. And so I would say I would just say to avoid saying your age regardless. You look super young, Yulia, so I wouldn't even mention it. So the other thing is for tonality. And I think you did a good job with this. But with tonality in interviews, I always recommend to make sure that you bring the tone down when you're done. So ensure your tone inflects downward once you are done speaking. Okay. So did you hear what I just said there? Like, I wasn't even doing it intentionally, but I was like, ensure your tone inflects downward when you're done speaking. Okay. You hear how my voice kind of drops down? That's what I mean. And you did this well. And I just want to point it out because it's something that if somebody has like a 30-second thing to say, then on Zoom, it's easy to not realize when they're done talking. And so if you take a pause, if you inflect downward, it's much easier for the conversation to transition. And I think you did great on that. So those are really the big 3 tenets. So 1 thing to improve upon and 2 things that you did great. So good job. Who wants to also answer this question next? Because you guys all need to be able to answer this question well. All right, Megan, tell me a little bit about yourself. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Megan Hudson. I'm originally from East Texas, a really small town, basically in the middle of the woods. Grew up very much an outdoors kid and learned how to be really independent. And now I'm still living in Texas for school, but really excited to kind of see what other opportunities arise. And I'm love plants. That's kind of one of my major hobbies outside of medicine and working, is working with that. So.
Okay, I think you did a couple things good, and then a couple things we can improve upon. The best thing you did, which is absolutely clutch, is to smile while talking.
Okay.
You can basically say 10 things wrong, but if you're smiling when you say it, it's going to come off as a much better response. And it's just because it's being friendly, right? And also when you smile, inherently your voice sounds more attractive. And it's like, okay, this person is like really bubbly, or this person is nice, or whatever it is. And so even if you got to fake it a little bit, oh, thank you so much for having me. Like, my name's, you did it great. And so you did a really good job with that. And one thing I would recommend, and this goes for everybody, practice this question with a family member. It's going to feel corny and it's going to feel weird, but the people that know you best, whether it's a significant other or a family member, they will tell you, like, is that a good response for this? Like, do you feel like that embodies me in like less than 40 seconds? And so you touched on a lot of things, like going outside, being independent, living in Texas. I think all that's good, but it didn't hit a home run for me. And so
Okay.
if you said all that stuff to a family member, I think they would probably say, yes, that does embody you, but it doesn't tie anything to your goals and aspirations as a doctor.
Okay.
So you don't have to focus in on like, I want to be an OBGYN and anesthesiologist because my mom had an OB. You don't have to go super deep into your story.
Okay. That was going to be my kind of follow-up, is like, do you need to somehow kind of tie it to a story or not? Okay.
You don't have to go super crazy deep on this, because what the interviewer is doing right now is they're listening for one thing that they can ask you for the next question. And so they're listening for a commonality. Like if they're from Texas, you're freaking super good to go, because they're gonna be like, oh, where at in Texas? I was from Texas. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna transition like that.
Okay.
So hitting on a few things that you can kind of hammer home, I think is great. But definitely make sure that you feel it embodies you as well. So for example, let me just give you guys, I haven't answered this in forever, so let me just give you guys kind of what I would say for me. Thank you guys so much for having me. My name's Austin Price. I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania, went to school in Florida, and now I'm looking for a vascular surgery position. I was a CNA for 5.5 years, knew I wanted to operate, and I kind of meshed those two interests of working with elderly patients, but also operating. And I can foresee that this program, and then you can give your maybe one reason, or you can say why that you're applying to that region. Like if you have a family member there, if you are really wanting to live on the East Coast, whatever it is, you can hit like one heavy hitter of why you want to be at that spot in that sentence as well. So short, brief, to the point, something that ties in. You can include a hobby if you want. You guys did that both. I think that that's totally fair game. If you don't include it there, they're probably going to ask you elsewhere. And then you can tie it into your goal for the specialty if you'd like to. Like, for example, the CNA plus elderly patients, I knew I wanted to operate. And so that's vascular surgery in a nutshell, is operating on old patients. And then tie it into the reason for that program. And it doesn't have to be any crazy extravagant reason, but if you have a tie to the area, mention it. If you have any specific aspirations that program can fulfill better than other programs, then feel free to mention it. So very good job overall, both of you guys. Few things to think about, but I think that the biggest thing that I didn't feel either of you guys do, but it's a very common mistake, and I want to mention it, is do not come off as rehearsed or fake. Okay, so I would rather you come off as like stumbling a little bit rather than coming off as super fake. Like I ask this question to students every year, and sometimes I'll get like a 3-paragraph essay in response verbally, and I'm like, dude, are you reading off the screen? Like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Like, nobody talks like that. But a lot of people think that it has to be so perfect. And remember, at the end of the day, nobody knows you better than you. Okay, so if you say something that, or you forget to say something, it's not the end of the world. Like, nobody's going to beat you up on it. You can just touch on it later. It's cool. I'd much rather that you're humble, kind, smiling, and succinct over everything. Because your passions, your research, your aspirations, all that stuff is going to get addressed at some point or another. So it's not the end of the world if you forget to mention it. So all in all, Megan, even though I was saying like mention something about like your tie to medicine if you can, even if you don't, they're going to ask you. So you're still fine. We're just talking about nitty-gritty details right now. So overall, you guys did great. Do you have interviews? Where are you at in terms of having interviews lined up right now? You don't have to go super into detail or anything, but do you have at least like one place that you're thinking of right now?
Yeah, so I just scheduled 2 for the 1st and 2nd week of November,
Okay.
and then another 2 in January. So I kind of wanted to get a couple earlier on just to kind of get a good gist, and then I'm taking off like 4 weeks in January to just knock out any kind of other ones. So that's kind of where we're at so far. I just had one at the end of my audition, like back in August. So
Awesome. Okay.
that was a little bit more, I would say, conversational, just because it's at the end of like working with those people for a month. So that's why I'm trying to, kind of prepare in a little bit different way since it's online and kind of the logistics behind that.
Absolutely. So I want you to keep in mind where your next interview's at. And my next question for you is, what questions do you have for me about this program? Because you're going to get that at every single interview day. You get 2 questions basically guaranteed. Tell me about yourself and what questions do you have? Every single interview.
Yeah. So I guess to give a little more context, my first interview is at a transitional year program because I applied to both Gen Surg and TYs.
Okay.
So my first one is at a TY program. So my first and foremost question would be how your program specifically serves the local area. It's a program that's in a smaller, kind of more rural community. So what are the outreach opportunities? That's something that I'm really interested in kind of pursuing in my future career, as I'm from a small town in East Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like from a resident standpoint? Would be my one question I would want to ask. And I won't say that at the end, but just to kind of answer your question about giving context for things.
Sure. So you kind of touched on an area of interest / personal goal that the program can fulfill. So that's perfect. Other things for this type of question, like for you, for example, for surgery, question is, how many cases do the residents graduate with?
Would you,
obviously, but just for your surgery interviews.
Can I ask a question? So would you say it's better to approach like specifically to surgery? Because I've been kind of recommended to go about it both ways. One being like graduating cases, and one being how soon do you reach your PGY2 250 kind of milestone? Would you say, can you ask both of those things? Is there one direction or the other you would go?
You can ask both questions, but to different interviewers. That's totally fine. You can ask the residents about when they hit their 250, so it's personal to them. And a lot of the times, the whole point of the questions is twofold. All right, so let me actually write this for you guys. So the twofold goal of your questions is number one, to learn more about the program, obviously, and to show an interest in your specific interviewer. And so the best way you could do that would be like, oh, like I'll pretend that you're my resident that's interviewing me. I'd be like, oh, Megan, when did you hit your 250? Like, did you feel that it was easy to hit? Were you struggling to hit it? Was there any area that you wish that the program emphasized more? You just learned a ton about the program in 20 seconds whenever she responds. And now she's talking about herself. What does everybody like to do? They like to talk about themselves. Maybe not introverts as much, but it's still, the point rings true, is you're showing interest, you know? And then you could ask like one of the attendings or program directors, like, and this is probably a better question for the PD or the APDs. What's the average caseload for your graduating seniors? Like, where do you see them? Are they in the thousands? Are they in the 2000s? Are they in the 300s? Like, you know, obviously not 300 or else they wouldn't be graduating, but the point still stands. I think the question should be tailored to the individual that you're with, because imagine asking the intern, like, oh, what are the fellowship opportunities? Like, they don't know. I mean, even if they know, just from what they heard on the word on the street, that doesn't matter to them, really. They're just trying to survive and stay afloat when they're getting slammed with 7 pagers at the end of handoff each night whenever they're on call shifts. You know, and I say that completely dead serious.
And I know you're being totally dead serious, because that's where I am doing my audition is at the program you were at. So for USMLE. So I very much have been in those handouts many a time.
Yeah, it's super brutal. Being an intern on call is absolutely god awful. And it's like terrifying, because you're like, I don't know anything about any of these services, like whether it's surg-onc, whether it's vascular. The mid-level usually holds like the colorectal and the thoracic page, or whoever you are on the team. It's not patients you're taking care of all day. You're just like literally rolling in and getting dumped all these patients with like a one-liner about them. And so it can be very, very overwhelming, but it's how you grow. It's how you get more efficient. It's how you like really learn to manage patients well. Let me ask you a good question, Megan, that I think will be highly relevant for you. So say you're at your interview and they say, let's go at this from the angle of the TY year rather than even emphasizing the surgery, because you can answer this in either interview, but I think that it's something that you need to keep in mind even more for the TY programs.
Okay.
What are you hoping to achieve by the end of this year?
So in applying for this program specifically, I hope to build a robust kind of medical knowledge in managing patients, becoming more independent and autonomous with managing floor patients, managing their conditions. Obviously, in medical school, it's emphasized for us to build the book knowledge and some clinical knowledge to an extent, but I feel like by the end of this year, I really hope to be a comfortable and competent starting physician as I kind of start my career in residency.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, that's exactly right. And especially like if you're going to be asked this at any kind of program, the primary goal of the end of your intern year is to not be doing surgeries. It's not to be doing procedures. It's not to be managing 30 patients on the floors. It's to do the basics and be safe. That's it. So no matter what specialty you're aiming for, is to do the basics and be safe. Be a patient advocate, make sure that you're able to understand the patient's complaints and relay that effectively to the team. Build your core skill set. Don't say that you're going to be doing Whipples at the end of your intern year, because you're not. You're not even going to scrub those cases half the time, because you're trying to calm down the fire on the floor that's going on with the patient that's in VTAC that you forgot to give their metoprolol to. You know what I mean? Like, it's just how it is. And that's part of growing and becoming a better physician, is you have to go through intern year. And as much as I hate hierarchical training, it's just, I'm not a hierarchical type of person. Like, I don't believe that just because somebody's more senior, they should be your boss. I think it should be a meritocracy. But at the end of the day, there's a reason that it's been structured this way pretty much forever. It's not the best way, but it's the way that works. So I think very, very good job with your answer about intern year.